because tar sands equals industrial genocide. And I think it's a really important note that there is a sacrifice zone that's currently the size of England. And Harper's plan is, he's very strategic, he's a smart guy. He knows that if you invest in infrastructure, then his vision of the Canadian petro-state will extend far beyond his reign of terror.
No. An example of oil and water, bitumen. This is the future from Enbridge. Think about that. Think about what's going to happen to your water if you allow Enbridge and corporations to continue doing this to our water. If you allow Enbridge and other oil extraction corporations to do this to our water, do you want that coming out of your tap? Do you? Canada, it's time to take a stand. Our most precious resource is in trouble, and we are in trouble. Everybody and every living thing on this planet needs water to live. Remember that. Idle No More started in part because of our outrage that Bill C-45 reduced the number of federally provincial waterways. The Crown has a duty to consult with Aboriginal people before resource projects proceed. Yesterday, March 6, 2014, the National Energy Board released its decision to approve Enbridge Line 9 reversal and expansion proposal. Enbridge was granted all its requests, no higher insurance, no hydrostatic testing, and continued violation of First Nations treaty rights. As no federal consultation with First Nations communities were conducted. Section 35 of the Canadian Charter recognizes and affirms the existing treaty rights of Indigenous people of this country. Reaffirming the Royal Proclamation of 1763 with non-compliance of the treaties and agreements, Enbridge Corporation and the Crown are in violation of the Canadian Charter. This 38-year-old pipeline runs under farms, First Nations communities, and territory, through neighborhoods close to schools, and crosses every single river that flows into Lake Ontario. Shame on them. Using the Line 9 pipeline to ship tar sands diluted bitumen containing dangerous toxic chemicals that can harm human health environment. Tar sands bitumen is heavier than water and far more difficult to clean than a regular oil spill. And as we know that our cousins in near Alberta tar sands, the Athabasca Chippewa First Nations are experiencing all kinds of health problems and cancers that doctors are starting to see as new cancers. So as a Cree woman, it is my responsibility of this nation to take a stand with all of you here. We need to take a stand for the water and for protecting this land. Thank you so much. Should send some of this water to the NEB executives that approved the Line 9 proposal. What do you think? Let's see if they would like to live close to this and in their backyard have the bitumen being pumped through. What do you think?
Industrial genocide, there's still going to be harms for workers, there's still going to be climate change. And it was interesting looking at the NEB decision, because they said that downstream effects are speculative and hypothetical. And I just want to quote from the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment on a little bit more concrete figures. They said air pollution kills about 20,000 Canadians a year. And with tar sands expansion, it will only get worse. If we care about our health, we need to leave the tar sands oil in the ground. Now, we're told that we don't have any alternatives, and Harper has used the economic crisis to try and push ahead for the tar sands. But the oil industry is actually the least efficient job creator of any industry you can imagine. And in the NEB's report, they've said that Line 9 will generate 3 permanent positions per station. Is that, honestly, that's the only thing we're going to get from this damn thing that's killing us? No, there definitely is an alternative. There's been a great report by Blue Green Canada saying that if we take the $1.3 billion invested in the oil sands by federal subsidies and put it instead into clean green jobs, we can get 18,000 more jobs. So this isn't a question of jobs versus the environment, and that's traditionally how it's what's been posed. I used to live in the West Coast, and there was quite bitter battles around the logging of Cliquot Sound in the 90s that pitted loggers against environmentalists. But now if you see, Unifor, the union representing tar sands workers, has actually signed the Solidarity Accord, which is standing in solidarity with the more than 130 First Nations who have signed the Fraser Declaration, saying that they will stop Northern Enbridge pipeline at any cost. Now you have the actual union support tar sands workers defending them. Now, they're, I think, further ahead than we are in Ontario, but there still is a growing number of labor unions who are supporting the movement against Line 9. And so I think that we have to reject the false dichotomy between jobs and the environment. We have to demand green jobs, not tar sands. We have to support the Indigenous communities who are at the ground zero and who are leading the fight back. And then we have to fight for the world of climate justice that will involve having a healthy planet, which is what we need for healthy people. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Shirley. I'm from Rising Tide Toronto. You've probably already seen this, but this is actual bitumen. And this is what it would look like at the bottom of a watershed if it ever spilled out of a pipeline, like Line 9. Okay, so as we gather here today, in the wake of this reckless decision on the part of the National Energy Board, I am reminded of when they approved the first leg of Line 9, Line 9A, on July 27th, 2012. On this exact same day, Line 14, another Enbridge pipeline in Ohio, spilled over 1,000 barrels of oil into the environment. These things happen, and unfortunately, for Line 9, this has happened 35 times already. We know that Enbridge pipelines are constantly spilling and turning communities and ecosystems into sacrifice zones. With an over 90% risk of rupture, the only question is where and when. We are aware that this project is part of a larger trend of government investment in tar sands expansion that is a genocide, industrial genocide, to Indigenous people and a death sentence to our climate. Indigenous people in Alberta leading the anti-tar sands movement have called this the civil rights movement of our time. In a militarized colonial petrostate, this pipeline cannot be stopped by appealing to the National Energy Board process. It is going to take nothing less than our bodies on the line. Join me and Rising Tide Toronto in signing a pledge to resist Line 9. We have clipboards going around right now, and we also have an online petition on leadnow.ca.
My name is Katie. I'm part of Toronto 350 as well. I've just come up to kind of explain our carbon bubble over there, which my fellow 350 members are valiantly trying to hold up. Besides all of the potential or definite horrible environmental impacts of things like Line 9 and the tar sands, there's also a significant financial risk as well. Many economists have started realizing this and are calling the fossil fuel industry a carbon bubble, similar to the housing bubble that caused the last financial crisis of 2009 that harmed so many people. So because all of the fossil fuels that are currently owned by fossil fuel companies, 80% of them cannot come out of the ground without causing climate change of more than 2 degrees Celsius, which all of the major countries in the world have agreed is what we are trying to avoid. Because 80% of that carbon is unburnable, fossil fuel companies are currently extremely overvalued, all right? So their stocks are dependent and assumed that they will burn 100% of the carbon that they currently own, and they're still looking for more. Shame! Shame. This will impact all of us, all right? And many economists, including the director of the World Bank, have said that investors should seriously consider divesting from the carbon industry. So our carbon bubble over there, we built it to use at rallies like this, but also as a symbol of one of our campaigns that we have just launched last night, actually asking the University of Toronto to divest from fossil fuel industry. Besides as a country, as a province, as a community being invested in this horrible infrastructure, many of our public institutions are currently invested in the fossil fuel industry, including schools, cities, religious institutions. So our campaign is to try to encourage all of these public institutions, starting there, moving on to pension funds, to get out of the fossil fuel industry, stop supporting it, both for ethical, environmental reasons, but also for financial reasons as well. It is time to start moving to a more sustainable economy, a more sustainable world, and that starts with stopping to support, taking the money out of fossil fuels.
And she actually participated in the lockdown Line 9 action, which shut down construction for a day that was happening right in the north of Toronto. And so I'm really excited to present Andrea Budgie.
Thank you, Sakura, and thank you everyone for coming out today. It was a real honor to be part of a press conference with Amanda representing Vanessa. What am I thinking? And Sarah, Marilyn, who's put so much work in getting on top of the technical details of this whole issue. I speak in the context of a faith community that has a long history of entanglement with colonialism in this country, and it's something we're working to come to grips with. But my faith does inform my interest in this issue, my concern with the future, and I believe that all faith and ethical traditions have at their core a recognition that we have a duty to care for the earth, that we have a duty to safeguard the well-being of future generations, and that we have another moral duty to engage with questions like this on the kind of level that our culture just tries to shut out, tries to distract us from. These are big questions, not just of hydrostatic testing or who has jurisdiction over what. These are issues of future health, safety of this planet. And we have to recognize that and keep those things in the public discourse, because if we let the discourse be hijacked by simple responses, then we're letting ourselves and future generations down. So thank you again. Keep it complicated, because it is complicated. Don't let it get simplified into insignificance.
I just wanted to say we should be seeing the wrapping up of that of the press conference soon. I wanted to give a few updates from Twitter, because we have people inside letting us know what's been said, because it's a day of social media, and that's what we're capable of. It's incredible. So someone inside has let me know that Sarah Harmer is calling on the Ontario government for a full environmental assessment. Reminder, yes, Sarah Harmer. There were 1,500 people that participated in Northern Gateway pipeline hearings, but the NEB reduced Line 9 participants to 175. So the Northern Gateway said such opposition, and in a variety of ways, very creative ways. There were children, they were giving presentations, there was songs, and they put an end to that. They said, no, you can't do that. It takes too much time. So they shut it down, and they made it a lot more difficult for us to participate here.
Ani, bonjour. As said before, my name's Vanessa. I need to call Lindsay to come stand with me. This is Lindsay Gray. We are sisters. She is my younger sister, and we are both a part of ASAP, where we are standing up against the industrial genocide that the colonial Canadian government is trying to wipe me and Lindsay out, because we are Indigenous, we are Anishinaabe, and we have rights to this land. And we are here today to speak up for our future generations. And not only our future generations are at risk now, it is your future generations also. Right now, we're currently living with, we're living pretty cozy with some neighbors. Neighbors including Enbridge, and there are many pipelines. We are living next to Shell. They are not the best neighbors. They are very messy, and they're trying to kill us off. And we also have, there's so many companies that are living so close to us, and our people are dying. This is another act of genocide from the Canadian government, because we have this land that we are trying to hold on to. We are trying to build back our culture. But it's hard to do that when we are sick. Our children are dealing with a lot of asthma. Me and Lindsay both grew up relying on puffers because our air quality is so bad in Aamjiwnaang. Aamjiwnaang is the example of what you don't want to happen to your communities and your homes. Be thankful that you can go home to a safer place than we are. We go home to oil spills. We go home to the chemical valley that is 40% of Canada's petrochemical industry, right next door to us. And they want to continue to move in on our lands. But me and Lindsay are here to say no. This is not going to happen. I was in the press conference inside, and I made it clear to the Canadian government, to Enbridge, to the National Energy Board, that they can expect resistance, because we would rather die than let any more tar sands come through our community and any more destruction happen to our health and to the health of the environment. So thank you all for coming out today. We love your support, and we love you for who you are, and thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm Ahmed, and I'm here to say, along with you guys, no to Line 9! Stop Line 9! Oh man, he bumped me up. Really, eh? We really need to stop all this shit going on. It's so dark, and we're gonna put some light onto it. I was one of the interveners at the NAB hearings, and one of the main concerns that I had was the pipeline ran so close to York University, and there's so many students that go to York University who could be affected if there was a rupture in this pipeline. What do we know about pipelines? They're rupture. What do we know about Enbridge? Their pipelines suck, right? Enbridge's pipeline? Enbridge's pipeline? Enbridge's pipeline break. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this is, as you can see, this is bitumen actually on the bottom of this water, right? And it's an example to show that how tough it's going to be to clean out all the dillbed, all the bitumen that once sinks into the water table, right? And all our water source comes from Lake Ontario, and all the tributaries that actually flow into Lake Ontario is close to this pipeline. So if there's a rupture, it's going to really make our water really dirty and toxic and really not tasty, right? Because water is amazing, we need it, and we can't live without it. So we need our water, and we need Enbridge to really get its pipeline manufacturing stuff, you know, whatever they do with the pipelines, how they make it, God only knows, but we really need to stop Line 9, and we need to stop tar sands production and distribution, and we need to spread all the love that we can. That's what needs to be shipped around all around the world. That needs to be exported, right? So let's say yes to love and no to Line 9, right? All right. Give me some energy. I need some energy. Let's say that again. Stop Line 9! nine! Stop line nine! Yeah! Right! It's great to be here with all these rebellious people. Make some noise, everybody, come on! Hey, when I say line nine, you say shut it down. Line nine! Line nine! Line nine! Line nine! That's what's up, yeah. And you know what? Rob Ford is not the only politician that's an addict. All these politicians, they're addicted to this dirty, dirty fuel, yo. We're all hooked in, we're all plugged in, and we're running out of this addiction, and they're trying to get us hooked on the dirtiest form of this drug, petroleum, and that's the tar sands. And I don't know if y'all have seen like the process of what takes place when they're taking the bitumen out of the ground. They clear cut the forests, they create these massive open pits, they then take the bitumen, they mix it with water, they spin it in centrifuges, and all that water contains all these heavy metals, and that goes into tailing ponds, that leaches into the ground, into the soils, it goes into the water systems. It's insanity, and we're killing the future. And we gotta stand up and represent. That's what we're doing here today. So this track here, it's called Oil Apocalypse. It's Oil Apocalypse now. Oil apocalypse now, drip, drip, drop. Driving off the peak, we at the tip, tip top. Pedal to the metal, but the signs say stop. Now we over the edge, this culture is dead. Pipeline spill, drip, drip, drop. Consume the future, big, big box. We all gonna die if this shit don't stop. And our time's running now, tick, tick, tock. It's Tarmageddon, oil apocalypse now. The thick black crew, the metropolis devours for power. Last minute of the final hour, the last shot for oil fertilizing the soil. It's peak everything, sitting on the brink. No air left to breathe, no water left to drink. No forest, no trees, species gone extinct. Our cultural Titanic and we're ready to sink. This whole society's been duped by gangster oilmen. Got us addicted, need a hit of that crack petroleum. Execs with no soul in them, governments controlling them. Exxon, Mobil, BP, Shell, Enbridge, Tarsands, paradise, meet hell from Alberta to Iraq. Trapped in their cell, staring at the abyss. I choose to rebel against the demon machine and the poison oil well. Oil apocalypse now, drip, drip, drop. Driving off the peak, we at the tip, tip top. Pedal to the metal, but the signs say stop. Now we over the edge, this culture is dead. Pipeline spill, drip, drip, drop. Consume the future, big, big box. We all gonna die if this shit don't stop. And our time's running now, tick, tick, tock.